Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Aurora's edge, watching the stars blur past through the main viewing window. The ship hummed quietly as it moved through space at faster than light speed. 200 souls were aboard his vessel, all heading toward humanity's first real home beyond Earth's solar system. The planet Kepler 442b waited for them, a new world where humans could build cities and raise families among alien suns. Jake had been captain for 8 years now. He was 42 years old, with graying hair at his temples and lines around his eyes from years of deep space travel. His crew trusted him completely. They had good reason to. Jake had never lost a single person under his command, not in all. His years flying between the stars, Dr. Lisa Hamilton walked onto the bridge carrying her tablet computer. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms, though so far humanity had found no other intelligent species in their travels. Lisa was 36, with short brown hair and bright green eyes that missed nothing. She had studied every form of life humans had discovered on dozens of worlds. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings from the sensors," Lisa said, looking worried. "There's something big out there, just beyond the edge of our scanning range." Chief Engineer Rick Carter looked up from his control station. Rick was a big man with strong hands and oil stains on his uniform. He kept the Aurora's edge running perfectly, day after day. "The engines are running fine, Captain, but I'm seeing some odd energy patterns, too. Never seen anything like it before." Jake nodded and walked to his command chair. "Slow us down, Mr. Turner. Drop out of faster than light speed, and let's see what we're dealing with." Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner was Jake's tactical officer. At 28, he was young but sharp as a knife when it came to ship operations and combat situations. His fingers moved quickly over his controls. "Dropping to normal space now, Captain." The stars stopped blurring and became fixed points of light again. The Aurora's edge slowed to normal speeds, floating through the darkness of the Vega system. They were still 3 days away from their destination planet, but something was wrong. The sensors were picking up massive objects ahead of them. Communications. Officer Nina Rodriguez suddenly straightened in her chair. Nina was 25, the youngest senior officer on the ship. She had joined the crew fresh from the Space Academy on Earth. "Captain, I'm getting a signal. It's not human. Someone is trying to talk to us." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was the moment humanity had wondered about for generations. First contact with an alien species. "Put it on the main screen, Nina." The viewing window changed, from showing stars to displaying the image of an alien face. The creature had gray skin and large black eyes. Its head was elongated, and it had no hair. When it spoke, its voice was cold and emotionless. "Human vessel, you will stop immediately. I am High Commander Vexthul of the Zephyrian Collective. You have entered our territory without permission. This is a violation of galactic law." Jake stepped forward. He had practiced this moment in his mind many times, but the reality was different, scarier. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earthship Aurora's Edge. We mean no harm. We're peaceful explorers heading to establish a colony." The alien's black eyes seemed to look right through him. "Your intentions are irrelevant, human. You owe tribute for passage through our space. A cost is 50,000 units of refined platinum, complete technical specifications for your weapon systems, and 20 of your species for scientific study." Dr. Hamilton moved closer to Jake's side. She whispered, "Captain, they're asking for people. 20 human beings." Jake's jaw tightened. The alien continued speaking. "You have 72 of your hours to comply with these demands. If you refuse, your vessel will be destroyed and all humans aboard will be harvested for our research facilities." "Harvested?" Jake said, his voice getting hard. "What does that mean exactly?" High Commander Vexthal tilted his alien head. Your species will be studied, dissected, and catalogued. This is standard procedure for non-compliant civilizations. The Zephyrian Collective has maintained order in this region of space for over 1,000 years. All species pay tribute or face elimination. Rick Carter stood up from his engineering station. His face was red with anger. They want to cut us up like lab rats, Captain. The alien seemed amused by Rick's anger. Resistance is futile, humans. We have 12 warships surrounding your primitive vessel. Our technology is far superior to yours. Compliance is your only option for survival. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Nina was pale but determined. Alex had his hand hovering over the weapons controls, even though Jake knew their ship was no match for alien warships. Lisa was studying her tablet, probably trying to learn everything she could about these Zephyrians. Rick looked ready to fight with his bare hands. We need time to consider your demands, Jake said carefully. 72 hours, the alien repeated. Not 1 minute longer. Choose wisely, Captain Morrison. The communication ended, and the viewing window returned to showing stars. But now Jake could see them. 12 massive alien ships, each one 3 times the size of the Aurora's edge. They were sleek and dark, with strange weapon ports along their hulls. The human ship looked like a tiny toy compared to the Zephyrian fleet. Captain, Nina said. Quietly, I'm receiving a data packet from Earth Command. It was sent weeks ago, but just reached us. Put it through, Jake ordered. Admiral Patricia Brooks appeared on a smaller screen. She was Jake's commanding officer back on Earth, a tough woman with silver hair and steel-gray eyes. Jake, if you receive this message, you've probably encountered something unexpected. Remember your training. Humanity doesn't negotiate with terrorists, whether they're from Earth or from the stars. Good luck. The message ended. Jake stood quietly for a moment, thinking. His crew waited for orders. 200 colonists were asleep in the ship's hibernation chambers, dreaming of their new home. They had no idea that their lives now hung in the balance. Nina, send a message back to Earth. Tell them we've made contact with a hostile alien species. Give them our position and status. Jake turned to Alex. Mr. Turner, I want a full tactical analysis of those alien ships. Find me their weaknesses. Rick, how's our faster-than-light drive? Can we run if we need to? Rick shook his head. The drive took damage when they forced us out of light speed, Captain. I can fix it, but it'll take time. Maybe 12 hours of work. Dr. Hamilton looked up from her tablet. Captain, I've been analyzing their communication. These Zephyrians have been doing this for a very long time. They're not just asking for tribute. They're running a protection racket across multiple star systems. Every species they encounter becomes their slave. Jake nodded slowly. He walked back to his command chair and sat down. The weight of command had never felt heavier. 200 human lives depended on his next decision. Behind him, Earth was counting on him to represent humanity well in this. First contact with alien intelligence. The alien ships waited in the darkness, confident in their superior numbers and technology. They had probably done this hundreds of times before with other species. Take their resources, steal their people, and add another conquered race to their empire. But they had never met humans before. Jake, Morrison smiled grimly and began planning humanity's response. Admiral Patricia Brooks sat in her office at Solar Command headquarters on Earth. Outside her window, she could see the blue curve of the planet against the black of space. The space station orbited Earth every 90 minutes, giving her a constant view of humanity's home world. At 58 years old, Patricia had seen humanity grow from a single planet. Species to explorers of the galaxy. Her computer screen flashed with an incoming message. The transmission had taken weeks to travel from the Aurora's edge to Earth, Patricia opened the file and read Captain Morrison's report. Her face grew hard as she read about the alien demands. 50,000 units of platinum. Weapons specifications. 20 human beings for experiments. Patricia stood up and walked to her wall display. It showed a map of known human space. Earth sat at the center, with lines reaching out to mining colonies, research stations, and exploration ships. The Aurora's edge was marked as a tiny dot far beyond the edge of human territory. She pressed a button on her desk. "Get me the Security Council. Emergency session, now." Within an hour, the most powerful leaders on Earth were gathered in the council chamber. President David Clark sat at the head of the table. Defense Minister Helen Garcia was connected by video link from the moon. General Robert Kim attended from Mars Command. Patricia stood before the assembled leaders. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a situation. Captain Morrison has encountered a hostile alien species called the Zephyrian Collective. They're demanding tribute and threatening to destroy our ship if we don't comply." President Clark leaned forward. "What kind of tribute are they asking for?" "Resources, technology, and people." Patricia replied. "They want 20 humans for what they call scientific study. Based on Morrison's report, I believe they plan to experiment on our people." Defense Minister Garcia's image flickered on the screen. "How many ships do they have?" 12 warships surrounding the Aurora's edge. Our vessel is no match for them." In a straight fight, General Kim spoke from Mars. "Admiral, what are our options? Can Morrison escape?" Patricia shook her head. "His faster-than-light drive is damaged. Even if he could repair it, they'd probably catch him before he reached safe space." President Clark was quiet for a moment. "Admiral, what's your recommendation?" Patricia walked to the wall display and pointed at the Aurora's edge's position. "Mr. President, for the past 50 years, humanity has faced 3 major threats to our survival. Each time, we chose to fight rather than surrender." She changed the display to show Earth's recent history. Images appeared of the asteroid that nearly hit Earth in 2051. Scientists had worked for months to develop a way to destroy it. When the nuclear missiles failed, they sent crews in small ships to plant charges directly on the rock. 43 people died saving the planet. The next image showed the plague outbreak of 2058. A deadly disease had swept across Earth, killing millions. Instead of accepting defeat, humanity's doctors and scientists worked without sleep for 2 years to develop a cure. They succeeded, but only after losing some of their best minds to the disease they were fighting. A final image showed the resource. Wars of 2063. When Earth's population reached 12 billion and resources became scarce, some nations tried to take what they needed by force. The wars lasted 3 years and nearly destroyed civilization. Humanity survived by learning to work together and share what they had. In each case, Patricia said, we could have given up. We could have accepted our fate. Instead, we fought, back with everything we had. We lost people, but we saved our species. President Clark nodded slowly. "You're saying we should fight these aliens?" "I'm saying we should be true to who we are, Mr. President. Humans don't pay ransom. We don't hand over our people to be experimented on. We find another way." Defense Minister Garcia spoke from the moon. "Admiral, what other way is there?" "Morrison has 1 ship against 12. His people will die." Patricia turned back to the council. "Maybe, but if we pay this tribute, what happens next? These Zephyrians have been doing this for 1,000 years. They'll keep coming back for more. Today, it's 20 people. Next year, it might be 200. Eventually, they'll want entire colonies." General Kim leaned forward. "She's right. If we show weakness now, we'll be fighting from a position of surrender for the rest of our existence." President Clark stood up and walked to the window. Earth turned slowly below them, blue and white and beautiful. Admiral, send a message to Captain Morrison. Tell him he has Earth's full support, whatever he decides to do. Patricia nodded. Yes, sir. Meanwhile, in the Vega system, Captain Morrison gathered his senior staff in the conference room. The Aurora's edge continued to drift through space, surrounded by the Zephyrian fleet. The alien ships had not moved closer, but their weapon systems remained powered and ready. Dr. Lisa Hamilton sat across from Captain Morrison, her tablet displaying everything she had learned about the Zephyrians. Captain, I've been studying their communication patterns and ship designs. These beings have been conquering other species for centuries. They've turned it into a science. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner looked up from his own reports. I've identified at least 6 different ship classes in their fleet. The largest one is probably their command vessel. If we could disable it, we might disrupt their coordination. Chief Engineer Rick Carter shook his head. Alex, our weapons barely qualify as weapons compared to what they're carrying. We have mining lasers and basic defensive systems. They have military-grade particle beams and energy shields. Communications Officer Nina Rodriguez had been quiet during the meeting. Finally, she spoke up. Captain, I've been monitoring their communications. They're not just talking to us. They're sending messages to other ships throughout this region of space. What kind of messages? Morrison asked. Routine reports. Supply requests. Status updates. Captain, I think this is normal. For them. They do this all the time to different species. Dr. Hamilton leaned forward. Nina's right. I've been analyzing the linguistic patterns in their communications. They have specific terms for different types of conquered species. Some are labeled as workers, others as soldiers, and some as research subjects. Which category do they put humans in? Morrison asked. Research subjects, Lisa replied quietly. They're particularly interested in our brain structure and our ability to adapt to different environments. Rick Carter slammed his fist on the table. They want to cut open our heads and see how we think. Turner pulled up a tactical display. Captain, even if we can't win a direct fight, we might be able to damage their ships enough to send a message. Other human vessels are exploring this region. If we go down fighting, at least they'll know what they're facing. Morrison stood up and walked to the window. The Zephyrian ships hung in space, like dark predators waiting for their prey to make a mistake. He thought about the 200 colonists sleeping in the hibernation chambers. They had volunteered to leave Earth behind and build a new life among the stars. They trusted him to keep them safe. But Morrison also thought about humanity's history. Every time his species had faced extinction, they had chosen to fight. Not because they were sure they could win, but because surrender meant the end of everything they believed in. He turned back to his crew. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 36 hours left before the Zephyrian deadline. I want options. Not for surrender, but for resistance. If we're going to die out here, let's make sure the galaxy remembers that humans don't go quietly into the dark. The crew nodded and began planning for war. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, staring at the message screen. The time had come to give the Zephyrians their answer. 72 hours had passed since High Commander Vexthal had made his demands. The alien fleet still surrounded the Aurora's edge, waiting for humanity's response. Morrison had spent those 3 days learning everything he could about his enemy. Dr. Lisa Hamilton had worked without sleep, analyzing every piece of data they had collected about the Zephyrians. What she discovered made his blood run cold. The aliens had records of 47 different species they had conquered over the past 1,000 years. Each one had paid tribute and submitted to Zephyrian rule. Most had their populations reduced to manageable numbers. The survivors worked as slaves in mining operations, construction projects, and research facilities across 12 star systems. But the worst part was what happened to the species that were labeled as research subjects. The Zephyrians had taken thousands of beings from these worlds. They performed experiments on them, studying their biology, psychology, and social structures. Most of the test subjects died during the procedures. The few that survived were kept in laboratories as permanent specimens. Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. Nina Rodriguez sat at her communication station, her young face set with determination. Alex Turner had his weapons ready, though they both knew the ship's mining lasers were no match for military warships. Rick Carter had worked miracles with the damaged faster-than-light drive, but it would only work for one jump before burning out completely. Dr. Hamilton stood beside Morrison's chair, her tablet showing the final piece of information they had. Discovered. Captain, the Zephyrians aren't just conquerors. They're farmers. They breed conquered species like livestock, taking what they need and disposing of the rest. Morrison nodded grimly. He had made his decision hours ago, but hearing Lisa's words confirmed that he was doing the right thing. He turned to Nina. Open a channel to the Zephyrian command ship. Channel open, Captain. The main screen filled with the image of High Commander Vex Thul. The alien's black eyes looked as cold and emotionless as before. Captain Morrison, your time has expired. What is your decision? Morrison stood up slowly. He had practiced this moment in his mind, but now that it was here, he felt completely calm. High Commander, I have a message for you and your collective. The alien tilted his elongated head. Speak your compliance, human. Morrison looked directly into the camera. His voice was steady and clear. Dear aliens, we don't do ransom fees. We suggest you move along before you discover why Earth's history books are written in blood. The bridge fell silent. High Commander. Vex Thul stared at Morrison for several seconds without speaking. When he finally responded, his voice carried a note of confusion. You are refusing our demands? That's correct, Morrison replied. Humanity does not negotiate with kidnappers, slavers, or murderers. We've looked at your records, Vex Thul. We know what you do to the species you conquer. We know about your research facilities and your breeding programs. The alien's expression changed. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Captain Morrison, you do not understand the situation? The Zephyrian Collective has ruled this region of space for over 1,000 years. No species has ever refused our demands. Then you've been dealing with the wrong species, Morrison said. Let me tell you something about humans. 50 years ago, an asteroid the size of a mountain was heading straight for Earth. Instead of evacuating the planet, we sent crews to blow it up. 43 people died to save 8 billion. Morrison began walking toward the screen as he spoke. 30 years ago, a plague swept across our world. Our doctors could have fled to save colonies. Instead, they stayed and worked until they found a cure. Hundreds of them died in the process. High Commander Vex Thul listened with growing alarm. Your species chooses death over survival? We choose freedom over slavery, Morrison replied. Every time. Dr. Hamilton stepped forward. High Commander, I've been studying your conquest records. Every species you've encountered has submitted because they believed survival was better than resistance. But you've never faced a species that would rather die fighting than live as slaves. The alien was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was harder. Captain Morrison, you have one ship. We have 12. Your weapons are primitive. Your technology is inferior. This is not courage. This is suicide. Morrison smiled grimly. Maybe. But here's what's going to happen. We're going to fight you with everything we have. We're going to hurt you in ways you can't imagine. And when we're done, every species in this region of space is going to know that the mighty Zephyrian Collective can be beaten. Even if you destroy us, Alex Turner added from his station, other human ships will come. They'll be ready for you. And they'll keep coming until you're gone. High Commander Vexthal's image flickered as he consulted with other aliens off-screen. Morrison could hear angry voices speaking in the Zephyrian language. Finally, the High Commander returned his attention to the human captain. You will be made an example of, Captain Morrison. Your species will learn the cost of defying the collective. We will capture your ship intact. Your crew will be taken alive for extended research. The 200 humans in your hibernation chambers will provide us with valuable specimens for decades. Morrison's expression darkened. You can try. The communication ended. The main screen returned to showing the Zephyrian fleet. The alien ships began moving, taking up attack positions around the Aurora's edge. Their weapons powered up, casting an eerie glow in the darkness of space. Nina Rodriguez looked up from her communications station. Captain, I'm detecting movement from the Zephyrian ships. They're preparing to board us. Rick Carter called out from engineering. Captain, they're using some kind of tractor beam. They're trying to disable our engines without destroying the ship. Morrison returned to his command chair. Alex, prepare all weapons. Rick, how long until our faster-than-light drive is ready? 10 minutes, Captain, but it's only good for one jump. Then we better make it count. Morrison activated the ship's internal communication system. All hands, this is the captain. The Zephyrians have refused our counteroffer. We are now at war. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, the crew sprang into action. In the hibernation chambers, automated systems began waking the colonists. These were not soldiers, but they were humans. When they learned what was happening, Morrison knew they would fight. Dr. Hamilton looked at her captain with respect and fear. Jake, we're really doing this. We're going to war against an empire that's ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years. Morrison nodded. Lisa, humanity didn't become the dominant species on Earth by backing down from bigger predators. We survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters. We've been preparing for this fight our entire evolutionary history. The first Zephyrian attack hit the Aurora's edge like a hammer blow. The ship shook violently, but the hull held. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the vessel as the crew prepared for battle. Captain Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair and smiled fiercely. Let's show these aliens what humans are really made of. The Aurora's edge shook as another Zephyrian energy blast hit the hull. Captain Morrison gripped his command chair and watched his crew work with deadly precision. They had 30 minutes before the alien boarding parties would reach them. 30 minutes to turn a colony ship into a weapon of war. Chief Engineer Rick Carter's voice crackled over the communication system from the engine room. Captain, I've stripped the mining equipment from Cargo Bay 3. We now have 6 plasma cutters that can punch through alien hull plating. I'm mounting them on the outer hull as makeshift cannons. Dr. Lisa Hamilton ran onto the bridge carrying a metal case. Her usually neat appearance was disheveled, but her green eyes burned with determination. Jake, I've finished the biological weapon. It targets Zephyrian respiratory systems specifically. 1 canister of this gas will incapacitate an entire boarding party without killing them. Morrison looked at her with surprise. Without killing them? We're not murderers, Captain. We're fighting for our freedom, not for revenge. Lisa set the case down carefully. The gas will put them to sleep for several hours, long enough for us to capture their equipment and learn their technology. Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner looked up from his tactical station. Captain, I've been studying their attack patterns. The Zephyrians are being careful not to damage our ship too badly. They want us alive, remember? That gives us an advantage. Communications. Officer Nina Rodriguez had been monitoring alien transmissions. Captain, I'm picking up something interesting. The Zephyrians are calling for reinforcements. High Commander Vextil is requesting additional ships. Morrison frowned. Why would? They need more ships? They already outnumber us 12-1. Nina's fingers flew over her controls. I think they're scared, Captain. I'm hearing uncertainty in their communications. They've never fought a species that refused to surrender. The ship shuddered again as the Zephyrian tractor beams tried to lock onto the hull. Morrison stood up and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is your captain. In 15 minutes, enemy boarding parties will attempt to take our ship. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. Throughout the Aurora's edge, humans prepared for battle. In Cargo Bay 2, Security Chief Danny Kim was teaching colonists how to fight in zero gravity. Danny was a former Marine who had signed up for colony duty to escape his violent past. Now that past was exactly what his people needed. Listen up, Danny shouted to the group of 30 colonists. These aliens have been conquering species for 1,000 years. They think they know how we'll react. They expect us to be afraid, confused, and helpless. A colonist named Sarah Johnson raised her hand. She was a teacher who had volunteered to educate children on the New World. Chief Kim, we're not soldiers. Most of us have never been in a fight. Danny nodded. That's exactly right, Sarah. Not soldiers. You're something the Zephyrians have never seen before. You're free humans who choose to fight rather than be slaves. He held up a piece of metal piping that had been sharpened to a point. The aliens wear armor, but their joints are vulnerable. Their helmets have breathing filters that can be clogged. Their weapons need both hands to operate effectively. An older colonist named Tom Garcia stepped forward. Tom had been a construction worker on Earth before volunteering for colony duty. Chief, what's our real chance of winning this? Danny looked at the faces around him. These were teachers, farmers, engineers, and shopkeepers. They had never expected to fight for their lives in deep space. Tom, our chance of surviving is probably close to zero. But our chance of making the aliens pay, a price they'll never forget, that's 100%. Back on the bridge, Morrison received reports from all sections of the ship. The colonists were awake and armed with improvised weapons. Rick had turned the ship's industrial equipment into defensive systems. Lisa had prepared biological weapons that would incapacitate, but not kill. Alex had identified weak points in the alien ship formation. Captain, Nina called out, the Zephyrians are hailing us again. Put them through. High Commander Vexthul appeared on the main screen. The alien looked frustrated and angry. Captain Morrison, this is your final opportunity to surrender. My boarding parties are prepared to take your ship by force. Many of your people will die unnecessarily. Morrison stood and faced the screen. High Commander, let me make something clear. Every human on this ship volunteered to leave Earth and build a new life among the stars. We knew there would be dangers. We knew some of us might not survive. Then why do you resist? Because we didn't come out here to be your slaves, Morrison replied. We came to be free, and we'll fight anyone who tries to take that freedom away. Doctor, Hamilton stepped beside her captain. High Commander, you've conquered 47 species over the past 1,000 years. Every one of them surrendered because they valued survival over freedom. But humans are different. We'd rather die on our feet than live on our knees. The alien's black eyes showed confusion. Your species is irrational. Survival is the primary drive of all intelligent life. No, Morrison said. Freedom is. You've just been dealing with species that forgot that. The communication ended. Morrison turned to his crew. Positions, everyone. Here they come. The first Zephyrian boarding pod hit the Aurora's edge near Cargo Bay 1. The aliens cut through the hull with precision tools and poured into the ship. They wore dark armor and carried energy weapons that could stun or kill with equal efficiency. First group of 12 Zephyrian soldiers moved through the corridors, expecting to find frightened civilians hiding in their quarters. Instead, they found empty hallways and an eerie silence. Security Chief Kim watched them through hidden cameras. He waited until the aliens were exactly where he wanted them. Then he activated Dr. Hamilton's biological weapon. Gas flooded the corridor. The Zephyrians tried to retreat, but their path was blocked by collapsed debris that Rick had rigged to fall at the right moment. Within seconds, all 12 alien soldiers were unconscious on the floor. Human colonists emerged from hiding places and quickly stripped the aliens of their weapons and armor. Tom Garcia picked up an alien energy rifle and tested its weight. "This isn't so different from the tools I used in construction." Sarah Johnson examined the alien armor. "It's designed for their body shape, but we can use the chest plates and helmets." More boarding pods hit the ship. The Zephyrians were expecting easy victories, but each group that entered the Aurora's edge faced the same treatment. Humans using their own environment against invaders, turning industrial equipment into weapons, and fighting with a desperation the aliens had never encountered. High Commander Vexthil watched from his command ship as his boarding parties disappeared, one by one into the human vessel. His tactical officers were reporting impossible things. Human civilians were defeating trained Zephyrian soldiers. Primitive weapons were proving effective against advanced armor. High Commander, his communications. Officer reported, "We're losing contact with our boarding teams. The humans are using some kind of chemical weapon." Vexthul's elongated face showed the first signs of real concern. In 1,000 years of conquest, no species had ever fought back this effectively. Prepare the second wave. Double the number of soldiers. But Morrison and his crew were ready for them too. The battle for the Aurora's edge had been raging for 2 hours. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display as his crew fought for their lives throughout the ship. The Zephyrians had sent 4 waves of boarding parties, and each one had been defeated by human ingenuity and determination. But the aliens were learning. Their latest assault teams wore sealed breathing equipment to protect against Dr. Hamilton's gas weapons. They moved in smaller groups to avoid Rick Carter's trap systems. High Commander Vexthil was adapting his tactics, and Morrison knew the ship couldn't hold out much longer. "Captain," Communications Officer Nina Rodriguez called out, "I'm picking up transmissions from other species in this star system. They're watching the battle." "What are they saying?" Morrison asked. Nina listened to her earpiece for a moment. "Sir, they can't believe what they're seeing. The Zephyrians have never had to send more than 1 boarding party to capture a ship. We've destroyed or captured over 60 alien soldiers." Lieutenant Commander Alex Turner looked up from his weapons console. "Captain, the Zephyrians are pulling back their boarding parties. All alien soldiers are returning to their ships." Dr. Lisa Hamilton frowned as she watched the tactical display. "That doesn't make sense. Why would they retreat when they have U.S. outnumbered?" The answer came a moment later. The main screen lit up with incoming fire from all 12 Zephyrian warships. The Aurora's edge shook violently as energy beams hammered its hull. Warning lights flashed red throughout the ship. Chief Engineer Rick Carter's voice came through the communication system. "Captain, they're not trying to capture us anymore. They're trying to destroy us." Morrison realized what had happened. High Commander Vexthil had given up on taking the ship intact. The human resistance had been so fierce that the aliens decided it was easier to kill everyone and salvage what they could from the wreckage. "All hands brace for impact," Morrison announced. "Rick, how's our faster-than-light drive?" "Ready to go, Captain. But I can only guarantee 1 jump before it burns out completely." Morrison made his decision. "Nina, send a message on all frequencies. Tell every species in this system that the Zephyrian Collective can be beaten. Tell them what you've seen. Here today. Broadcasting now, Captain. Alex, target the Zephyrian command ship. All weapons. Sir, our mining lasers won't penetrate their shields. Morrison smiled grimly. They will if we get close enough. The Aurora's edge suddenly changed direction, no longer trying to escape or defend. Instead, the human ship accelerated directly toward the largest Zephyrian vessel. High Commander Vexthilla's flagship was 3 times the size of the human ship, bristling with weapons and protected by energy shields. Captain, what are you doing? Dr. Hamilton asked with alarm. Something they won't expect, Morrison replied. Rick, divert all power from life support to the engines. We're going to ram them. The Zephyrian fleet reacted with confusion. Their ships had been positioned to surround and destroy the Aurora's edge from a safe distance. They had not expected the humans to attack. The alien vessels tried to change position, but the human ship was moving too fast. High Commander Vexthill appeared on the main screen, his black eyes wide with shock. Captain Morrison, you are committing suicide. Your ship will be destroyed. Probably, Morrison agreed. But your flagship is going down with us. Security Chief Danny Kim's voice came through the communication system from the cargo base. Captain, all boarding parties have been eliminated. We captured 37 alien soldiers alive. They're unconscious, but unharmed. What about our people? Morrison asked. We lost 12 colonists, sir. They died defending their new home. Morrison felt a moment of grief for the lives lost. These people had volunteered to build a peaceful colony among the stars. Instead, they had died fighting for humanity's freedom. Danny, get everyone to the escape pods. We're going to ram the command ship. Sir, the colonists want to stay. They say if you're going down with the ship, they're staying too. Morrison looked around the bridge at his crew. Nina Rodriguez was barely 25 years old. Alex Turner had his whole life ahead of him. Dr. Hamilton could have stayed safely on Earth instead of risking her life in deep space. But none of them moved toward the escape pods. Captain, Nina said quietly, we volunteered for this mission together. We'll finish it together. The Aurora's edge closed the distance to the Zephyrian flagship. Enemy fire concentrated on the human ship, but Morrison had diverted power from weapons and life support to shields and engines. The ship held together long enough to reach ramming distance. High Commander Vexthill tried to communicate one last time. Captain Morrison, this accomplishes nothing. You will die, and the collective will continue to rule. Morrison looked directly into the camera. High Commander, you've been ruling through fear for 1,000 years. Today, you learn what happens when someone refuses to be afraid. The Aurora's edge struck the Zephyrian flagship at full speed. The impact sent shock waves through both vessels. The human ship's hull cracked and split, but its momentum carried it deep into the alien vessel's structure. The Zephyrian flagship's shields collapsed under the impact. Emergency alarms wailed throughout both ships. The Aurora's edge was dying, but it had dealt a mortal blow to the alien command vessel. High Commander Vexthill's flagship began to list to one side, its engines failing and its weapons offline. All hands, abandon ship, Morrison ordered. This is not a request. Rick Carter appeared on the bridge, having run from the engine room. Captain, the containment field around our reactor is failing. We have maybe 5 minutes before it goes critical. Morrison nodded. Get to the escape pods, Rick. That's an order. What about you, sir? Someone needs to make sure this ship hits its target. Dr. Hamilton grabbed Morrison's arm. Jake, the ship's navigation system can handle the final approach. You don't need to stay? Morrison looked at her with affection and respect. Lisa, someone needs to coordinate the escape pods and make sure our people survive. That someone is? You. One by one, his crew reluctantly left the bridge. Morrison was alone when the Aurora's edge delivered its final blow. The human ship's reactor exploded just as it reached the core of the Zephyrian flagship. Both vessels were consumed in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen throughout the star system. The remaining 11 Zephyrian ships found themselves without their command vessel and their high commander. The human ship was gone, but so was their leader and their most powerful warship. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Zephyrian collective had suffered a major defeat. In the escape pods floating through space, the survivors of the Auroras. Edge watched the destruction of both ships. Dr. Hamilton activated the emergency beacon that would call for rescue from other human vessels. Communications. Officer Nina Rodriguez monitored the alien transmissions. Dr. Hamilton, the Zephyrian. Ships are retreating. They're leaving the system. Around them, space was filled with the debris of 2 starships. But it was also filled with something else. Messages from the other species in the star system. Species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for generations. Species that had just watched a small group of humans defeat the mighty collective. The revolution had begun. 3 months after the Battle of Vega Station, Dr. Lisa Hamilton stood on the observation deck of the rescue ship Darwin's Hope. Through the viewing window, she could see the planet Kepler 442b slowly rotating below them. The world was green and blue, with white clouds swirling through its atmosphere. It looked peaceful and welcoming, like the new home humanity had dreamed of finding. But Lisa's thoughts were not on the planet. They were on the man who had died to make this moment possible. Captain Jake Morrison had given his life so that his crew and colonists could reach their destination. His sacrifice had done more than save 200 human lives. It had changed the entire galaxy. Communications officer Nina Rodriguez joined Lisa at the window. At 25, Nina had become the senior surviving officer from the Aurora's edge. The past 3 months had aged her, but she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had faced the impossible and won. Dr. Hamilton, we're receiving. Another message from Earth, Nina said. Admiral Brooks wants to speak with you. Lisa nodded and followed Nina to the communications center. The Darwin's Hope was one of 12 human ships that had arrived in the Vega system after receiving the Aurora's Edge's final transmission. They had found the escape pods floating in space, along with debris from both the human colony ship and the Zephyrian flagship. Admiral Patricia Brooks appeared on the main screen. Behind her, Lisa could see the familiar blue curve of Earth against the black of space. The Admiral looked tired but proud. Dr. Hamilton, I've received your final report on the battle. The Security Council has read every word. We're all incredibly proud of what you and your crew accomplished. Lisa felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Admiral, we lost Captain Morrison and 23 other good people. I'm not sure if what we accomplished was worth that price. Admiral Brooks leaned forward. Lisa, let me tell you what's been happening since your battle. The Zephyrian collective is falling apart. Species across 12 star systems have started rebellions. The aliens who ruled the galaxy for 1,000 years are retreating to their home worlds. Nina's eyes widened. Admiral, are you saying that other species are fighting back? That's exactly what I'm saying. The Regellians threw off Zephyrian rule 2 weeks ago. The Centauri colonies declared independence last month. Even species that had been enslaved for centuries are remembering what freedom means. Lisa walked closer to the screen. What about the Zephyrians themselves? Are they still demanding tribute from other worlds? Their fleet is scattered and demoralized. High Commander Vexthul's death broke their command structure. Without their strongest leader and flagship, they can't maintain control over their empire. The Admiral paused and looked directly at Lisa. Dr. Hamilton, Captain Morrison's message has been broadcast across the galaxy. Every intelligent species has heard his words. Dear aliens, we don't do ransom fees. It's become a rallying cry for freedom. Chief Engineer Rick Carter entered the communications center. He had been working non-stop for 3 months, helping to establish the colony on Kepler 442b. His hands were still stained with oil and grease, but his face showed satisfaction and hope. Admiral Brooks, we've got the main settlement up and running. 237 colonists are now living on the surface. The first human city beyond Earth's solar system is officially founded. Admiral Brooks smiled. What are you? Calling it, Rick? Morrison's Landing, Rick replied without hesitation. The colonists voted unanimously. Lisa felt tears in her eyes. Jake Morrison had dreamed of seeing humans build their first interstellar colony. He had died before that dream became reality, but his name would be remembered forever in this new world. Security Chief Danny Kim appeared on the screen from the planet's surface. Behind him, Lisa could see prefabricated buildings and humans working in the alien sunshine. Danny wore the simple clothes of a colonist now, but he still carried himself like the Marine he had once been. Dr. Hamilton, we've got visitors, Danny announced. A ship just entered the system. It's not human, and it's not Zephyrian. Lisa felt a moment of alarm. Are they hostile? I don't think so. They're broadcasting a message on the same frequency Captain Morrison used for his declaration. They want to talk? Admiral Brooks looked concerned. Lisa, be careful. We don't know who they are or what they want. Put them through, Lisa ordered. The screen changed to show an alien face unlike anything they had seen before. The being had blue skin, large golden eyes, and delicate features. When it spoke, its voice was musical and warm. Greetings, humans of Morrison's Landing. I am Ambassador Kethvara of the Free Rigelian Republic. We have come to thank you. Lisa stepped forward. Thank us for what, Ambassador? For showing us that the Zephyrian Collective could be defeated. For proving that freedom is worth fighting for, even against impossible odds. Your Captain Morrison's sacrifice inspired our people to throw off chains that had bound us for 300 years. The alien's golden eyes showed genuine emotion. Dr. Hamilton, we have a proposal. 47 species were enslaved by the Zephyrians. We want to form an alliance of free worlds. We want humanity to be a founding member. Nina looked at Lisa with excitement. An alliance of free worlds? Like a galactic government? Ambassador Kethvara nodded. Not a government, a partnership. Each species would remain independent, but we would work together to prevent anyone from building another empire, like the Zephyrian Collective. Lisa thought about Jake Morrison and his final words to High Commander Vexthal. Ambassador, what would this alliance be called? We thought you might have suggestions, Dr. Hamilton. After all, it was humanity that started this revolution. Lisa smiled for the first time in months. She could almost hear Jake's voice in her mind, steady and determined. Ambassador Kethvara, I think Captain Morrison would have liked something simple. How about the Free Worlds Alliance? Perfect, the alien replied. Dr. Hamilton, will humanity join us? Lisa looked around at her surviving crew members. Nina, Rodriguez, who had grown from a young communications officer into a leader. Rick Carter, who had turned mining equipment into weapons and now built cities on alien worlds. Danny Kim, who had taught teachers and farmers to fight like warriors. She thought about Admiral Brooks back on Earth, and President Clark and all. The humans who had chosen to support Captain Morrison's decision, rather than surrender to alien demands. She thought about the 47 species that were now free, because one human captain had refused to pay ransom fees. Ambassador, humanity accepts your proposal, but we have one condition. Name it. The Alliance headquarters will be built here, on Kepler 442b, in Morrison's Landing, so that everyone who comes here will remember that freedom isn't free. It has to be fought for, defended, and sometimes died for. Ambassador Cathvara's golden eyes sparkled with approval. Dr. Hamilton, I think your Captain Morrison would be proud. Lisa looked out the viewing window at the planet below. Human colonists were building the first interstellar city in humanity's history. Soon, representatives from dozens of species would join them. The galaxy would never be the same. Captain Jake Morrison had wanted to explore the stars and find humanity, a place among them. He had succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. Humans were no longer alone in the universe. They were leaders of a new age of freedom that stretched across the galaxy. And it all started with 5 simple words. We don't do ransom. Fees.